It's State of the Union time, and I know you're probably wondering what I'm wondering. What is it gonna be about? Obviously, Biden's gonna have his priorities. The Republicans are gonna have their response. And I assume it is gonna be grounded in only the most substantive concerns that address the true crises facing the American people. Oh wait, no, they're talking about the fence. Yes, they're talking about the fence. There's a fence, did you know? Marjorie Greene's talking about the fence. The fence is back up around the Capitol for State of the Union because Biden knows walls work on the ground. Joe Biden is more afraid of Americans visiting their capital than a Chinese spy balloon. She's still in the balloon, invading our airspace that could have carried only God knows what. So she's back to caring about the balloons. She cared about the balloons, then she found out that there had been Trump balloons, and then she was only mad at why they hadn't told Trump about the balloons. But now a day has gone by, so she's just right back to being bothered by the balloons, but not the Trump balloons. It's interesting how she worked out the math in her head. And Aida, the fence on the ground is proof that if you need a fence to keep MAGA people out of a high profile event like the State of the Union, then obviously you need a multi-billion-dollar wall along thousands of miles of our southern border. I think her logic makes perfect sense. What do you think?
Oh man, I feel so bad for the American people at this point because so many games are being played with them, and while they're in the middle of their struggle and they're supposed to be picking themselves up by their bootstraps according to the people that they blindly follow, they are listening to all this foolishness that is indicative of how poor the education system is in this country.
I'm gonna try to help them out just briefly. So I will only speak for myself. I'm against spending tens of billions of dollars for a racist shrine at the border. That doesn't mean I don't think there are cases in which a wall is good.
Well,
that's a wall. That's a wall right there. You know why that's a wall right there? Because if the wall wasn't there, then the outside would be there. I have walls in many of the buildings that I go to because sometimes walls are helpful. That doesn't mean walls should be everywhere. You'll notice there's no wall between me and the camera. That'd be a bad wall. This is a good wall. Southern wall is bad wall. Some walls good, some walls bad. Are you following me, Marjorie Greene? Congress had a vote to recognize the suffering of the people of Turkey and Syria and offer official condolences for all that have lost. Over 50,000 lives lost. And that may seem like the most obvious, easy thing to do ever, but for some, it's a bridge too far. Two people voted against that. Marjorie Greene, of course, is one. Thomas Massie joins her. He's not gonna be outdone on being awful, but no, Marjorie Greene has voted against that. Here's what the resolution actually does, to give you an idea of how controversial it might be. It praised, quote, the work of humanitarian aid and rescue workers on the ground, expressed deep condolences to the friends and family of the lost, and condemned efforts by the Assad regime of Syria to exploit the disaster to evade international pressure and accountability. Two people voted against it. It effectively was saying, man, it's really awful what happened. It's terrible what you're going through and how difficult the recovery is gonna be and how for literally hundreds of thousands of families, you're never gonna fully recover after this. So we wanna acknowledge that. She couldn't do it. And I thought, okay, this seems mad, but there's gotta be a reason. There's gotta be something in the terminology that would trigger her. She hasn't said anything. Like she voted against this, which seems utterly reprehensible. I mean, George Santos voted in support of it, by the way. Matt Gaetz voted in support of it. Paul Gosar voted in support of it, but she didn't. And despite that, didn't feel the need to even tweet an excuse, maybe a BS excuse, something that doesn't make any sense. She hasn't even done that, at least as far as I can find. Sabrina, what do you think?
This seems like such an easy slam dunk. There's not even any action that's actually happening here. I don't get it. What does she want to not be popular? Does she want to not be in politics anymore? I cannot get it. I was trying to look it up too, actually, and I couldn't understand her reasoning.
I mean, if there was something in that was like, oh, and by the way, as the wealthiest country in the history of countries, we're gonna provide some money eventually. We're not even doing it right now, but maybe someday. Then I could say, okay, well, she despises everyone who doesn't live inside of America and most of the people that do. So maybe she doesn't want promises of future. No, there's nothing like that. There's nothing like that. And by the way, she has previously tried to appear right on this. She tweeted back February 6th, it's 22 days ago, praying for Turkey and other countries suffering through deadly earthquakes. Thousands are feared dead. Well, you ended up being right. Yes, many thousands of people died. And I'm sure that they appreciated your brief tweeted prayers, but when it came to official recognition of their struggle, and that's it, that was apparently more than you were able to muster. She didn't even vote president. She voted against it. She wanted it to fail. How sickening.